My brother and I are both shameless simps. My brother is a flirtatious playboy who got himself tangled up with an ascetic, abstinent big shot. I'm slow and introverted, silently in love with a scheming crown prince. Then they both announced their engagements to someone else. After my brother and I sat in silence for a long time, we ran away together. Half a month later, when we were abroad and the two big shots, faces dark as thunderclouds, finally tracked us down, I found out that before we ran, that idiot brother of mine had posted a moment's status. I'm running off to play the incest route with my sister, by you too. When I heard that John Tyler was getting engaged, I was honestly stunned. Even though I had long since prepared myself for the day he'd get engaged to someone else, when that day suddenly arrived, I realized I still couldn't comfort myself with a simple, "It's fine." Maybe it was because we'd been seeing more of each other lately, and that had stirred up a faint, fragile hope in my long-standing, one-sided crush. After all, not long ago, we'd just gone to a concert together. Though, to be fair, the effect of that outing seemed less than ideal. That day, it was a symphony orchestra John really liked. I had gone out of my way to ask a friend for 2 tickets and nervously invited him to go with me. I had even decided that if he didn't want to go with me, I would give him both tickets so he could take whoever he actually wanted to go with. That would have been fine too. But John said yes. I was so happy that it felt like pink bubbles were floating all around me. Before we left, I did a full face of makeup, put on a pretty dress, and crammed a bunch of music knowledge. What I never expected was that, as I listened and listened, I fell asleep. Because I'd been too excited the night before and hadn't gone to bed until the middle of the night, I was severely sleep-deprived, and somehow I just drifted off in the middle of the performance. Not only did I fall asleep, I fell into such a deep sleep that I lost all sense of heaven and earth. My head refused to cooperate and ended up resting on John's shoulder for over half an hour. If the applause at the end hadn't jolted me awake, I might have started talking in my sleep the next second. On the verge of tears, I looked at John rubbing his shoulder with his hand. "I'm so sorry, I really didn't expect to fall asleep. Is your shoulder super sore?" "It's fine." John was actually smiling quite happily. "Not sore." Feeling annoyed with myself, I walked out of the concert hall with him. But just as we reached the door, I suddenly heard someone calling John's name. I glanced around and saw a very pretty girl running toward us. "John, it really is you." The girl looked delighted. "Did you come by yourself?" "Rachel?" John jerked his chin in my direction. "I came with her." The girl named Rachel greeted me, then asked gossipily, "Hi, are you John's girlfriend?" I was a little dazed and stared blankly at John. John refused to help me out. "She's asking you. What are you looking at me for?" My brain was still foggy from my nap, processing things painfully slowly. After thinking it over, I decided I should stick to the truth. "No," I shook my head. "We're just ordinary friends." After that, I lifted my gaze to look at John again, but his expression didn't change. He gave no visible reaction at all to my answer. I lowered my head, feeling a little disappointed. Rachel didn't press the topic. Instead, she asked John, "Did you drive here?" My friend had something come up and left halfway through. "You can give me a ride, right? We live pretty close anyway." My heart gave a little stab. It seemed their relationship was closer than I'd imagined. John lowered his head to look at me. "Is that okay?" Rachel was looking at him expectantly. So I said, "Sure, go ahead." "All right." John lifted his foot to leave. "Let's go then." I called him back. "I just remembered I need to go to the supermarket later. You two go on ahead." I actually had zero desire to go to the supermarket. I just didn't want to be the outsider, tagging along between them. John's tone cooled a little. "You're sure you're okay with me taking her back by myself?" It's fine." I pretended not to care and waved my hand. "Bye." "Got it." John turned and walked away, and before he left, he tossed one last line over his shoulder, "Grace Brown, you're pretty generous." I had a vague feeling that I'd done something wrong. Because after that day, whenever I messaged him, his replies were all very cold. I'm naturally slow on the uptake and had no idea what I should do, so for the time being I simply stopped taking the initiative to text him. I never expected that so soon after, I'd suddenly hear that John was getting engaged. I felt awful. Wanting to copy the dramas and drink myself into oblivion, I bought a few bottles of alcohol and sat in the yard drinking in silence. When I was halfway through the second bottle, a thunderous, "Holy shit," exploded behind me. I turned around and saw my brother staring at me in shock. "Since when do you drink? How do you dare? Have you forgotten how you puked all over me after just a few glasses of red at your high school graduation?" He kept going, "What's got you so worked up? Don't tell me you're heartbroken because John's getting engaged, ha 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 ha." "Yes," I said. "My brother, my name is Grace, and my brother's name is David Brown. We're 3 years apart, real blood siblings. We have a lot in common." For example, we're both simps. Lately, he's been wrapped up in a chaste, self-restrained business mogul named Jeremy Smith. And the one I like is the heir to the Tyler family, John. That's right, our second common trait is that we both like men. That's right, my brother is gay. When he came out back then, our parents downed 3 fast-acting heart pills in a row. Luckily, they're pretty open-minded, and given that my brother has never exactly been an easy child, their tolerance threshold has kept rising over the years. In the end, they unwillingly accepted it. My mom even asked me anxiously, "Grace, you're not also?" I hurried to reassure her. "No, I'm just like my brother." My mom immediately started fumbling for the heart pills again. "You're gay too?" I hurriedly changed my wording. "I mean, I also like men." My mom finally poured the heart pills back into the bottle. The third thing my brother and I have in common is that we are both absolute failures when it comes to pursuing someone. I'm introverted and slow to warm up, and when I try to chase someone, I fumble around so slowly I can't even find the right path. My brother is the complete opposite of me. He's basically a flashy little social butterfly, a shamelessly flirtatious bottom with a pair of gorgeous, seductive peach blossom eyes. Ever since he met Jeremy, he's gone all out chasing him, trying every possible way to flirt, but the other party has always stayed icy cold. When it comes to pursuing people, my brother and I use totally different methods, but the outcome is exactly the same. But looking at things now, I seem to be doing even worse than my brother. David sat down next to me. "Hey, don't be sad. There are plenty more fish in the sea. I'll go scout a few handsome guys for you right away." "No," I refused. "All the handsome guys you find are gay." David was speechless for a few seconds. "Not all of them are gay, okay?" I still said, "No." "Why are you so stubborn?" David started criticizing John. "John's not even that great. He looks all polite and gentlemanly, but he's actually super manipulative. He's totally white on the outside, black on the inside, you know." I didn't like him bad-mouthing John. "Oh, and Jeremy with his permanent iceberg face is any better? He's just black through and through." David flicked me on the forehead. "Hey, you little brat. I'm trying to comfort you here, okay?" I ignored him. "I told you, the way you're chasing him is never gonna work." He started dissing me again. "You're ridiculously dense. You make sandwiches with your own hands and then say you bought them outside. Whenever John goes to some banquet, no matter how far it is, you drag yourself over there, and once you're there you don't even dare say hi. You just hide in a corner the whole time until it's almost over, and only when he spots you and comes over first do you finally squeak out, 'Wow, what a coincidence, you're here too.'" David went on, "I keep telling you, if you like someone, you have to be open and straightforward. Like me, just throw straight balls." I muttered under my breath, "But you haven't caught your guy either." David was struck speechless again. At least Jeremy hasn't gotten engaged. I took another critical hit, silently unlocked my phone, and opened my chat with John. We hadn't talked in 2 days. Suddenly, a message from my best friend popped up. "Ellen, Grace. Huge news. That big shot your brother's been crazy about is getting engaged too. Ellen, what is going on lately? Is there some buy one engagement, get one free promotion? Why is everyone getting engaged? Ellen, is your brother laughing at you right now? Hurry up and laugh back at him." Ellen really lives up to being my best friend. She even managed to guess that my brother was making fun of me. I stopped drinking, turned my head, and looked over at David. David got creeped out by my stare. "What? What's with that look? Why do I feel like you're pitying me? That's backwards, okay? The person I'm chasing hasn't gotten engaged." I didn't say anything and just kept quietly looking at him. He looked at me in confusion. I kept on looking at him. His expression slowly collapsed. "No way." I nodded. "Yes way." David snatched up his phone, his fingers flying across the screen. 5 minutes later, he put his phone down with a blank look in his eyes and turned to me. "Got any more beer?" I quickly opened a bottle for him. I was just about to say something when David cut me off. "You don't need to comfort me." "Oh, I wasn't going to," I said. "I was going to say thank you. I actually feel a lot better now." David flipped me off. "Screw your uncle." I pouted. "My uncle is your uncle too." David shut up completely. Watching him silently drink more than half a bottle of beer, I still couldn't help wanting to comfort him. "Bro, you okay?" "Grace." David suddenly called my name. "Huh?" I replied. Right then, David might as well have had the words "I have a terrible idea" written across his face. His eyes were shining. "Kiddo, let's run away." "Huh?" I said. Puzzled, I asked, "Run where?" David said, "Let's find some little island overseas and go on vacation. We'll hide out there for half a month, cut ourselves off from the world, ignore everyone, and leave all the annoying stuff back home. How about it?" I still had a lot of unused annual leave, and David was a freelancer, so we could leave whenever we wanted. Maybe I was just too heartbroken about John's engagement, but for once I actually felt a little tempted by one of his ideas. Well? You in or not? David kept trying to persuade me. Come on, come on. Just think of it as keeping your brother company. I thought it over, then nodded. Okay. David is a man of action. He immediately pulled out his phone, picked out a random overseas island that was easy to travel to, and booked both the hotel and the plane tickets. We leave the day after tomorrow. Hurry up and pack your stuff. But unfortunately for me, before we left, I still wanted to see John one more time. As soon as I heard that John would be attending another banquet that night, I headed out right away. Just like so many times before, once I arrived, I didn't dare go up and talk to John. Instead, I snuck off by myself to hide in a dead-angle corner and quietly searched for John's figure. 5 minutes into my secret observation, John's sculpted, chiseled face appeared in my line of sight. Almost reflexively, I shrank a little deeper into the corner. The moment John appeared, a bunch of people went over to greet him. He smiled pleasantly, navigating the social scene with ease. I watched him, a little dazed. I wondered if his fiancé had come tonight. John is so wonderful, his fiancé must be very happy. The more I thought about it, the sadder I felt, terrified that his fiancée would suddenly appear and slip her arm through his. So I decided that before John saw me, I should hurry up and sneak away. Unfortunately, I miscalculated and got stopped by someone who knew me. I turned around and saw Noah. Noah is my brother's classmate and used to come over to our house all the time. Noah called out to me just as I was sneaking off. "Gigi?" "Noah," I greeted him, forced to stop. He walked over with a smile. "By yourself? David didn't come?" "Nope," I said. "Just me." We chatted for a bit, and he seemed to notice how eager I was to escape. "You heading out already?" I nodded. "Then I'll give you a ride. I've got something to do, so I need to leave early anyway." Noah took out his car keys. "I'll go say a quick goodbye to my friends. Wait for me here." That's not. Before I could finish refusing, Noah had already gone off to find his friends. But in just that short moment, I suddenly realized I had no idea where John had gone. I was glancing around, searching for him, when a familiar voice suddenly came from behind me. "Who are you looking for?" I whipped around and saw the face I'd been thinking about day and night. John, who had been far away just a moment ago, had somehow come right up to me. It used to be like this too. I would only dare to secretly look at John from a distance, but John could always spot me and very graciously come over first to say hello. He really is a good person. This time was no exception. "No one," I lied, playing dumb just like before. "I didn't know you were here too." John smiled. "Yeah." I carefully tested the waters. "Did you come alone?" "Yeah." He nodded, then asked back, "Who else would I come with?" The words, "Didn't your fiancé come with you?" caught in my throat. I just couldn't say them out loud. I changed the subject instead, pulling a small box from my bag and handing it to him. "This is for you." John took the box. "What is it?" "A tie clip," I said, a little embarrassed. "See if you like it." I'd bought it a while ago, and I'd been afraid that if I didn't give it to him soon, I might never get the chance. John opened the box and took out the tie clip, examining it carefully. It was a new piece from a luxury brand, simple and elegant in design. When I ordered it, I'd even had them engrave John's initials on the back. John thanked me. "Thanks, I really like it." I let out a sigh of relief, my tense heart finally loosening. "Do you want to try it on?" "Sure." John nodded, then handed the tie clip to me. I blinked. "Aren't you going to put it on for me?" John asked. He was so calm and natural about it, as if there was nothing strange at all, which only made my hesitation and reluctance to take it seem more suspicious. After agonizing for a moment, I still took the tie clip and stepped closer, gently fastening it to his tie. All done. When I looked up, I met his eyes as he looked down at me. John didn't look away. He kept his gaze on me. "How is it? Does it look good?" My heart was pounding so hard it was like someone was beating a drum in my chest. My voice went weak. "It looks good." What I meant by good was John. John laughed. Once again, I was bewitched by his smile. It wasn't until someone called my name that I snapped back to my senses. Annoyed with myself, I lightly knocked my own head. Why was I being stupid again? No wonder David always says we're like newbies who just left the starter village running into a top-tier succubus. "I called you twice and you didn't respond," Noah said, appearing by my side. "Shall we go, Gigi?" So it was Noah who'd been calling me. I had just opened my mouth to answer when John spoke first. "Gigi?" He was smiling as he looked at me, but there was a strong sense of pressure behind that smile. "Gigi is my nickname," I quickly explained. "My brother's nickname is Didi, so I'm Gigi." "I see." John's tone was gentle. You must be pretty close then, if he knows your nickname. He was clearly smiling as he said it, but for some reason, the phrase, a smile hiding a knife, popped into my mind. I hurried to explain further. He knows because he's my brother's friend. Noah reached out to shake John's hand. Nice to meet you, I'm Noah. John shook his hand back. Hi, John. I was nearly suffocating and just wanted to escape as fast as possible, so I turned to Noah. Can we head back, Noah? Sure, Noah said. John looked at me again and repeated, Noah? Something was off. John was starting to sound like a broken record. I could only keep playing dumb, changing the subject as I said goodbye. I'm heading out now. John didn't reply, just lowered his gaze and looked at me. Oh, right. I took a deep breath, gathered my courage, and said softly, Congratulations on your engagement. Even though I really didn't want to say those words, I still hoped he would be happy. Maybe my voice was too quiet, because John seemed a little puzzled. What did you say? I didn't have the courage to repeat it. I hurriedly grabbed Noah and walked away quickly, never once looking back at John. When I got home, I sat in the living room spacing out. Until David came back. Seeing me still in my little dress, he instantly understood. You went to fake a chance encounter with John again, huh? Or were you just secretly staring at him from the shadows? He hit the mark perfectly, and I stayed silent. David shook his head. You haven't improved at all. You're still this shy. No wonder John's getting engaged to someone else. I didn't argue back. Instead, smelling the alcohol on him, I said, You went to a bar again? Yeah, David said. What about it? And you haven't improved at all either, I countered. You're still such a flirt. No wonder Jeremy's getting engaged to someone else. I was wrong, David said quickly. Let's stop emotionally wounding each other, okay? We sat in gloomy silence for a while longer, until David bounced back faster than I did. Enough moping. Go pack your suitcase. We're leaving tomorrow night. I said, okay. The next evening, David and I boarded a plane, heading to a small island in Southeast Asia that he had picked out. When I woke up in the morning and saw the clear, sapphire blue sea, I really did forget about John and all that sadness for a brief moment. How is it? Gorgeous, right? David asked proudly, waiting for praise. Wasn't my decision absolutely brilliant? I gave him a big thumbs up. Life on the island was very laid back. My favorite thing was watching the sea. I could sit there staring at it for half a day. David was different. Within just a few days on the island, he had visited every bar there, made himself at home in all of them, and piled up enough phone numbers and notes to form a little mountain. We each did our own thing and took turns disliking each other. He hated that I'd come all the way here on vacation to relax and was still clutching my phone, scrolling back and forth through my chat history with John, while I hated that he was such a shameless butterfly, flitting everywhere, doomed to get what's coming to him sooner or later. David snatched my phone. Stop looking at John, little sis. Look around you. Of all the handsome guys I secretly took photos of for you, you don't like a single one. I took my phone back and stared blankly at the chat screen with John. I hadn't sent John a message in 3 days, and John hadn't messaged me first either. David opened his photo album and showed me the guys he'd snapped. What about this one? He's from our country too, here on vacation. His family seems pretty loaded. Or this one, he went on. He's foreign, sure, but he's hot. You could date and practice your English at the same time, 2 birds with 1 stone. I pushed him away, utterly speechless. No thanks. You keep them. You think I don't want to? David clutched his chest dramatically. I asked around, they're all straight. David was about to scroll further through his album for me when I stopped him. All right, calm down for a second. Sit here and watch the sea with me, okay? It's the middle of the night, it's pitch black, what's there to see, he grumbled, but still came over and dropped onto the lounge chair beside me. Once he lay down, he uncharacteristically went quiet and stared at the sea for a while. Bro, I called to him softly. Don't be sad either. Sad? Who, me? David tried to save face. I'm great, thanks. Huh. You know how popular I am. If Jeremy doesn't know how to cherish that, it's his loss. I played along. You're great. Jeremy's the one who's blind. David stared at me like he'd seen a ghost. What the hell? Why are you suddenly complimenting me? Did you tell Mom I overwatered her succulent and killed it? I really did mean what I said. To outsiders, David always looks like a total playboy, flippant, flirting everywhere, peach blossoms blooming all around him. But I know that's not who he really is. From the outside, it looks like he has enough exes to form a basketball team, but in reality he's only ever seriously dated one person. It looks like he hits on every handsome guy he sees, but he's only ever truly, earnestly chased Jeremy. He's gotten so many invitations, but he's never accepted a single one. It's just that nobody believes that, and Jeremy doesn't either. Jeremy, just like his serious face, is cold and rigid, so of course he naturally despises a butterfly like David. No matter how David chases him, he always assumes David is just playing around, not serious at all. He once told David, if you want to fool around, find someone else. I don't have time to play with you. David spread his hands helplessly. I am serious. Why won't you believe me? Jeremy's gaze had dropped to David's shirt, unbuttoned down to his chest, exposing a wide stretch of pale skin. There was even a little note stuffed into his shirt pocket, left by someone else, with a phone number and a big heart drawn on it. Jeremy let out a cold snort and turned on his heel. Hey? David said weakly. On the 5th day of our island stay, David finally dragged me to a bar. He was so enthusiastic I started wondering if he secretly held shares there. Just this once. You're already here, how can you not experience it at least a little? Annoyed to death, I still ended up agreeing. When we got to the bar and David hauled me over to say hi to the handsome guys from his album, I finally understood his plan. This is the sister I told you about, Grace, David said, sounding like a matchmaker. What do you think? Pretty, right? Very, the guy across from me said politely, greeting me. Nice to meet you. I nodded slightly. Hi. Running into a fellow countryman in a foreign land, such fate. David exclaimed dramatically. You two chat. I'll go look around over there. Hey, I didn't manage to stop him. He slipped into the crowd in a flash and vanished. I had no choice but to stand there and make small talk with the handsome guy. I don't really drink, but because I was embarrassed, I kept taking sip after sip without thinking. By the time my head started spinning again, I said goodbye to him. I wanted to find David to tell him I was heading back first. After searching and searching, I finally found David slumped in a booth, half asleep. I asked the person next to him, why did he drink so much? They were playing depth charges or something. He got hyped up and downed an entire row in one go. I nudged David. We're going back. Okay, David mumbled, wobbling to his feet. Afraid he'd fall, I had no choice but to support him as we walked. The bar wasn't far from our overwater villa, but with David drunk and hard to control, and me also a bit tipsy, it took both of us an enormous effort to finally make it back to our door. Panting, I set David down at the entrance, planning to catch my breath before going inside. David was truly wasted. All 178 centimeters of him had curled up into a ball, his head resting on my shoulder as he wailed like a ghost. Ugh. Men are all unreliable. From now on, it's just us siblings against the world. The after effects of the alcohol were hitting me too. My head was getting heavier and heavier, and I couldn't think of anything to comfort him with, so I just patted him on the back. I shook my head, thinking I should get us back inside before I completely passed out. Bro, wake up a bit. Let's go into the room first. David kept his head stubbornly buried in my shoulder. I was helpless. I was just about to try brute force and drag him inside. But the moment I lifted my gaze, I froze. A little ways down the walkway, two tall figures were standing there. The dim yellow light from the lamp cast across their faces. The one on the left was stone-faced, the one on the right had a half-smile that was somehow more terrifying than not smiling at all. The one on the right glanced at the one on the left. They're that close. Think they really snuck off to play the incest route behind our backs? The left one's face grew even darker. He strode over, hoisted David off my shoulder in one move, pulled the room card out of David's pocket, opened the door, and went inside with him. My shoulder suddenly empty, I said, huh? I stared after their retreating backs, my brain completely crashing, when a shadow fell over me from above. I looked up and saw the face I'd been longing for. My first reaction was, I must be dreaming. If David found out, he'd definitely scold me for being hopeless, dreaming about John even in my sleep. Dream John was just as handsome as ever. He leaned down toward me. How much did you drink to end up a drunk mess like this? I held up 2 fingers honestly. 2 glasses. John laughed. Maybe because I thought it was a dream, I suddenly got bold and really wanted to touch him. So I asked, can I touch you? So getting drunk makes you braver, John mused. Sure. Where do you want to touch? I lifted my right hand and gently stroked his cheek, letting out a shameless, satisfied little hee-hee. It feels so real, I giggled stupidly. But I must be dreaming. Otherwise how could you be here? Then his classic scheming smile appeared. Right before I completely blacked out, I heard his answer. I came to stop you two from going down the incest route. When I woke up, my head was pounding, and images of seeing John last night floated through my mind. I sighed. So I really do miss John too much. Not only had I dreamed about him, I dreamed he was letting me squish and pinch him however I wanted. I was still in yesterday's clothes, so I got up, washed my face, and changed into a fresh outfit. I was just about to go next door to check on David when I opened my door and froze. Sitting on the sofa were the two people who'd appeared in my dream last night. Jeremy was sitting upright, a laptop in his hands, apparently still working. In the middle of his busy schedule, he looked up, expressionless, and gave me a small nod. I stiffly nodded back, then just as stiffly shifted my gaze to the person next to him. John tilted his head. Morning. Not a dream. David being carried off by Jeremy wasn't a dream. Me touching John's face wasn't a dream. Me grinning like an idiot at John wasn't a dream. In that moment, I really wanted to turn around, walk to the balcony, leap into that endless glassy sea, and swim away as fast as I could. Bro. Get out here now. I can't handle this alone. In over 20 years of life, I'd never wanted David around this badly. If I'm going down, you're going down with me, bro. Maybe it really was sibling telepathy, because right as I was screaming for David in my head, the door to the other room opened. David came out with a bird's nest for hair. Gigi, you didn't add that handsome guy last night, did you? He messaged me asking for your contact info. I'll send him your card, yeah? I could practically feel a laser beam shooting at me from John's direction. I didn't dare look over, only frantically tried to signal David. No. David, focused on his phone, completely ignored me. Don't be so resistant. I think he's really good. If he weren't straight, I'd have kept him for myself, ha ha ha. Great. Now there were two laser beams instead of one. Enduring the double kill shot of John and Jeremy's stares, I coughed like crazy. Cough. Fine, if you don't want him, you don't, David said at last. Makes sense anyway. With a super handsome brother like me right here, it's normal you can't be bothered with anyone else. If it comes to it, we siblings can just muddle through life together, ha ha ha. I closed my eyes in despair. If stupidity were an illness, David would be terminal. David laughed for a full minute before the laughter finally died. His voice went stiff. Maybe I drank too much and I'm still drunk. I must be hallucinating. I gave him a dead inside smile. Of course. When you're doomed, it's perfectly normal to start seeing things. But David was still David. Old Ginger really is spicier. Unlike me, all nerves and panic, David only freaked out for 3 seconds before recovering. What are you panicking for, he said, patting my shoulder. Watch and learn. He took the offensive, lifting his chin at Jeremy arrogantly. Well, isn't this the very busy man who's about to get engaged? Jeremy's expression shifted through several shades, but David stayed calm. What are you doing here? Go get engaged. Why are you following me? David, Jeremy said, his tone low. What? David glared back. What's with that attitude? You still dare to talk to me like that? If you haven't made up your mind, then go back and think it through. I don't want to see you right now. After venting at Jeremy, David threw me a quick meaningful look. See? Learning this? Then he stomped off swearing, and before he left, he tossed one last line at Jeremy. Don't follow me. Whoever follows me is a little dog. 1 minute after David left, Jeremy quietly stood up and walked out with a cold face. I watched the two of them leave, stunned, and gave a silent round of applause in my heart. I'm never going to be able to do that in this lifetime. There's no way I could say something that tough to John. I turned around slowly and met John's gaze where he sat on the sofa. John patted the empty spot beside him. Receiving my orders, I went over immediately and sat down next to him. I asked, "What are you doing here?" John spread his hands. I got randomly blocked for no reason. Of course I had to come over and ask what was going on. Huh? I said. John took out his phone and opened our chat. There were several messages he'd sent, each with a little red exclamation mark after it. Underneath was a line of tiny text, message sent but rejected by the other party. I stared in shock, then grabbed my own phone and opened his profile page. I'd never noticed it before, but at the very bottom there was a line, "This user has been added to your block list. You will no longer receive messages from this contact." I was dumbfounded for a few minutes before it finally clicked. Right before our vacation, David had taken my phone, saying he couldn't find his and needed mine to make a call. This had to be his doing. I didn't know, I blurted, rushing to explain to John. It was my brother. I figured, John said, nodding knowingly before going on. But do you know about you and your brother going down the incest route? I said. Was that still Chinese? Because I suddenly couldn't understand a single word. John opened David's profile, tapped into his moments, and scrolled to a post from a few days ago. It was from right before they boarded the plane to come here. David, I'm running off to play the incest route with my sister, bye you too. When David came back, I was flipping through my photo album for John, introducing all the sea creatures I'd captured over the past few days. It had started because John said he wanted to see my album, to check out the beautiful scenery I'd been photographing. He'd asked very politely, "Is that okay? Is it inconvenient?" "No problem," I'd agreed. There wasn't anything special in my album anyway, because all the photos of John had long since been hidden in a private folder. Afraid he'd get bored, I introduced each picture while sneaking glances at him, but John was looking very intently. There weren't many photos, so we finished them quickly. John seemed satisfied. He ruffled my hair. Good. David hasn't managed to corrupt you. It took me a second, then I thought of David's album full of nothing but handsome guys. Speak of the devil. The moment David came in, he saw John still ruffling my hair. What are you two doing? David roared out of nowhere, storming over and yanking me off the sofa. He glared at me like I'd let humanity down. You're forgiving him just like that? That's way too cheap for this brat. I blinked slowly. But I never blamed him in the first place. I'd been secretly in love with John this whole time, never expecting anything in return. Because of that, I'd never blamed him, and I had no right to. David gave me a look that screamed hopelessly love-brained. But he got engaged. He explained. It was a misunderstanding, I said. I'd finally mustered 100,000 points of courage and asked John about his engagement just now. Engagement? John had thought for a bit before it seemed to click. I get it. It must be from when my mom went to a banquet and joked with her friends about arranging one for me. She told me about it afterward, and I turned it down. Somehow, as people kept talking, it turned into me actually getting engaged. I hadn't expected the thing that had tormented me for so long to be that simple. Oh. So because of that, you ran off with your brother? John asked, half amused, half exasperated. Next time, ask me first, okay? I nodded. Then I thought, if John's engagement was fake, could the news about Jeremy's engagement also be just a rumor? But John said, Jeremy really is getting engaged. Purely a business marriage, zero feelings involved. He's only met the woman a few times. They've agreed to live their own lives and not interfere with each other. I didn't know what to say, so I just sighed. When David heard that John's engagement had been a false alarm, he had the same question I did. Then what about Jeremy? It's real, I cut in immediately. The hope that had just flickered across his face collapsed in an instant. I knew it. Ha! That bastard. I glanced around him and, not seeing Jeremy, asked, Where's Jeremy? I yelled at him and he ran off, David said through gritted teeth. He shot a look at John, then at me, and got even madder. Can you not learn from me a little? You can't spoil men too much, you know. You still dare lecture me? I shot back, unwilling to take it. Who blocked my contact? Who posted a moment's status saying we were going down the incest route? I'm telling Mom and Dad. David, who'd been all puffed up just a second ago, dropped to his knees with a thud. I was wrong. Sis, my dearest, sweetest sister, please don't tell Mom and Dad. That moment's post is only visible to John and Jeremy. I said it that way so no one else would see it and snitch on me. If they find out, they'll beat my legs off in a mixed-gender tag team. Then I'll really have to go see an orthopedist. John and Jeremy booked the overwater villa next door and stayed on the island with us for a few days. David treated Jeremy with this fake, lazy indifference and headed straight for the bar every evening. Jeremy simply threw money at the problem and bought out the entire bar, forcing David to come back swearing under his breath. David stomped ahead, cheeks puffed out in anger, while Jeremy followed behind him. All the way back to the villa door, David stepped inside first, and Jeremy was about to follow. David blocked the door with his whole body. You're not allowed in. Jeremy was tall and broad-shouldered. If he really wanted to force his way in, there was no way David could stop him. But Jeremy didn't really push. He only said, David, what is it you want? What do I want? David was furious. I should be asking you that. I listened to you and stopped being your simp, but now you're the one chasing after me. What do you want? You want me to be your homewrecker? Not a homewrecker, Jeremy said with a frown. There's no feelings between me and her. David laughed angrily. And what difference does that make? In everyone else's eyes, what am I then? Still a homewrecker, and a male one at that. Jeremy's face went so dark it was frightening. David. Get lost. David finally found an opening to slam the door. Until you figure things out, we have nothing to talk about. Jeremy was left outside, standing there silently for a full 5 minutes. He raised his hand, let it fall, opened his mouth, closed it again, and in the end he turned and walked away. John and I were not far away, watching him come down the path. John patted him on the shoulder without saying anything. I looked at Jeremy. Can we talk? He nodded once. We walked to the shore, and I spoke first. He was really upset when he found out you were getting engaged. He's nowhere near as cheerful as he looks on the surface, I went on. My brother's very good looking, and he has a great personality too. People have been chasing after him since we were young. But he's never chased anyone this seriously before. Before you figure out how you really feel about him, I hope you stay away from him. He deserves someone better, someone who will choose him and only him without hesitation. Jeremy listened to my accusations in silence. After a long time, he finally spoke. Before the engagement, I just thought, since there are no feelings involved anyway, it doesn't matter who I get engaged to. It wouldn't change anything. Your brother is a butterfly that's a little too beautiful. It's not that I don't want him to land on me. Jeremy paused before adding, I'm just afraid he'll only rest here for a moment, then fly away again. If he really does fly away, then that's on you, I blurted out without thinking. It means you're not good enough to make him stay. Jeremy froze. I didn't plan on talking anymore, so I turned around to leave. I hadn't gone far when I heard Jeremy's voice behind me. I'll call off the engagement. Walking forward, I saw John waiting for me. Don't worry. John gently pressed his fingertip between my brows where they'd furrowed. Jeremy's like a tree that only blossoms once in a blue moon. He just hasn't figured things out yet. Once he does, he'll be fine. I nodded. Oh, right. He suddenly said, something's come up at the company. I might have to fly back tomorrow. My chest began to ache faintly, and I didn't dare look at him. Oh, okay. When we got back to the door of the overwater villa, I said goodbye to him. Bye. John didn't move. Anything else you want to say? I didn't know what to say at all. Seeing my confusion, John smiled very gently. Then I have something to say. Come back soon, Gigi. He leaned closer, eyes shining. When you're not around, I miss you. John flew back the next day. A few days later, Jeremy also left because of work. Once they were both gone, David and I started feeling restless too. I was staring blankly at the sea, thinking about John, when the door was suddenly flung open. David plopped down next to me and took a huge gulp of beer. Back so soon? I asked. You were out for, 20 minutes? With Jeremy gone, David was finally free to hit the bars as he pleased. I'd thought he'd go wild all night, but he'd come back so quickly. David let out a muffled mm. Seeing his expression, I understood. I looked at him. He looked at me. So? I ventured. Change our flights. David suggested. We reached an instant, unspoken agreement. The two of us rushed to change our tickets and flew back home a few days earlier than planned. Ever since we got back, a certain idea had been circling in my mind. It grew bigger and bigger, until one night I finally confided it to David. As expected, he immediately started yelling. What? You want to confess to John? No way. I don't approve. He objected firmly. Why should you? He doesn't deserve it. He should be the one confessing to you first, with at least 500 roses and a big sparkly rock, or you're not allowed to say yes. John is a rich young master, tall, handsome, with a great personality. Only David could think he didn't deserve me. I felt my eyes sting and sniffled, calling softly, bro. Pouting won't work. David was furious that iron would not turn to steel. How can you let him have you wrapped around his finger like this? You've had a crush on him for years and haven't made any progress at all. What are you going to do if he bullies you later? I'm not scared. I gave David a fawning smile. Because I know you'll always be there, backing me up. David sighed helplessly and flicked my forehead. Although I'd said I was going to confess to John, my cowardice kept dragging it out. Every time the words reached my lips, I swallowed them back down. After more than a month of this, even David was speechless. Do you need me to do it for you? I've only ever heard of people settling scores after the fact. You're the first one I've seen trying to confess after the fact. When I finally made up my mind to confess, I did my best to act calm. We followed our plan, movie, then dinner, then the amusement park. I'd done my research and knew there would be a nighttime event at the park for the next few days, a fireworks show in the evening. When the fireworks bloomed, I would confess to John. Everything went smoothly at first. John and I found a spot where there weren't many people and waited for the fireworks. My palms were sweating from how nervous I was. Seeing me taking deep breaths, John asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing, nothing." I waved my hands quickly. "I'm just really excited for the fireworks." John smiled. At 8 o'clock sharp, the fireworks rose into the sky. I took one last deep breath, stood on tiptoe, and leaned a little closer. John. He lowered his head to look at me, fireworks bursting behind him. I started on the line I'd practiced countless times. But before I could say the second syllable, John cut me off. "Hang on a second." I froze, just staring at him and forgetting my line completely, not understanding what he wanted me to wait for. Like a magic trick, a necklace appeared in his hand out of nowhere. He bent down slightly and fastened it around my neck. A premonition of happiness wrapped around me. I didn't dare move at all, afraid that any movement would break the spell. That was close. I was almost beaten to the punch, John said with a smile as he stepped back a little, looking at me. "Will you be with me?" It was like I was caught in a whirlpool of pure joy, so dizzy I couldn't manage a single word. All I could do was nod and nod and nod. It took a long time for my brain to catch up, and only then did I realize my confession plan had apparently been exposed. I asked him, "When did you figure out I was going to confess?" "Ever since you started planning it," John said. "I've gotta say, you're a little too obvious, GG. But at first it was just a guess. What really confirmed it for me was the day before yesterday, when your brother suddenly showed up and punched me, and said if I ever dared make you sad, he'd hand out my business cards like flyers at a gay bar." John added, "Feels like he's been waiting for this day a long time. Want to update him on the result?" How? I asked, not quite catching on. John laughed, suddenly taking my hand in his and lifting it, waving it toward the distance. Following his gaze, I saw David hiding behind a big tree not far away, half his face peeking out. Once he realized we'd spotted him, he didn't even bother hiding. With how well I know him, I was sure his expression was saying, "So what if I'm spying?" Not only that, he even took John's gesture, waving our joined hands at him, as a deliberate provocation, rolled up his sleeves, and started marching over, cursing under his breath. He'd barely taken a few steps when Jeremy appeared out of nowhere and dragged him off. Jeremy silently endured every one of David's very real punches and kicks and still managed to haul David away. John lifted his free hand and gave Jeremy a thumbs up. Good man. Ever since Jeremy came to his senses and cancelled the engagement, he and David had switched positions completely. Jeremy had become the one chasing after David every day. A few days earlier, David had started up his love lecture series with me again. "How many times have I told you, you've got to keep a guy a little on the hook. If he gets you too easily, he won't cherish you." I listened carefully and even raised my hand to ask a question. "Mr. Brown, I have a question." David put on a mock serious air. "Go ahead, Grace." I feigned innocence. "Mr. Brown, why do you have so many mosquito bites on your neck?" Ahem. David tugged at his collar, trying to cover the hickeys on his neck. "Ever heard of adult business?" I haven't forgiven him. "I'm just toying with him, okay?" He waved a hand. "Forget it. You're still a kid. I can't explain this to you." Class dismissed. Back then, I just said, "Oh." I watched their retreating backs with a smile, until John pinched my chin and physically turned my gaze back to him. "All right, that's enough. No more staring. I just finished confessing to you, and you're already looking at someone else. I'll get jealous." My attention was pulled back and dropped onto our tightly clasped hands. Maybe I was just too happy, but I couldn't hold it in and started giggling like an idiot. "That happy?" John laughed with me. "Do you like me that much?" I blinked, and because I was shy, my answer came out very soft. "Yeah. I really did like him. I still remember the first time I met him. It was at some banquet. I was wearing ill-fitting high heels, and the backs of my feet were rubbed raw. I was limping, hiding in a corner, trying to stuff some tissue in my shoes, when I ran into John. We didn't know each other, so after we both froze for a second, we just nodded at each other politely. John left quickly. But a few minutes later, he came back and appeared in front of me again, handing me 2 Band-Aids. "Use these." I stared at him in a daze, while inside it felt like an earthquake was going on in my heart. After that, I often watched him quietly from afar. I never imagined that one day, he'd be the one holding my hand and saying to me, "Don't secretly look at me anymore. You can look openly. At every gathering, you hide yourself so well I have to search forever to find you." He tightened his grip on my hand a little. "More than once I kept looking and looking, only to realize you really hadn't come at all." I let out a laugh that was a little morally questionable. Because I knew that when I went home that night, David would definitely say I had no backbone, for saying yes to John without even thinking. But if I have no backbone, then so be it. Life is short. Might as well love first and think later.